Welcome, readers. Today on Book Chat, joining me is my Buddy Reads co-host, Classy Green. We'll be discussing Dr. Sleep by Stephen King, as well as its movie adaptation. Stay tuned. Today's episode is sponsored in part by Audiobooks.com. Audiobooks.com now has 175,000 titles and 1.2 million podcasts. New customers get 3 free audiobooks comprised of 1 premium credit and 2 VIP titles. Use our promo code Shelf Addiction, spelled as one word, when you sign up at audiobooks.com. Again, our promo code is Shelf Addiction. Hey everyone, I'm your host, Tamara Ford, and thank you for downloading this month's Buddy Read discussion featured here on the Shelf Addiction podcast. If you're new here, every week we get bookish with book discussions, book reviews, shelf bites, and more. If you're wondering what is a Buddy Read, this is a feature where Classy and I select a thriller or mystery title that we both are interested in. Then we have a candid conversation about that book or audiobook. We even discuss it in our Facebook group, Shelf Addiction Official, during a live chat. So grab a glass of wine, a cocktail, a cup of tea or coffee, whatever your drink of choice is, and settle in for this fun discussion. As always with book chats, there is a spoiler alert in effect, so you've been warned. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support this podcast by sharing it with your book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. That will really help me out, and I appreciate you for doing it. The uncut video version of this podcast is available now on Patreon. Join us there for exclusive videos, including this podcast after show. If you'd like to support the show in other ways, please consider doing that by supporting our sponsors. By supporting them, you are supporting us. Check out all of the sponsors at shelfaddiction.com/sponsors. If you've read the book or listened to the audiobook and would like to weigh in on this conversation, be sure to join the Facebook group Shelf Addiction Official. I hope to hear your thoughts on this discussion. Links for everything I've mentioned are in the show notes, so let's get going. We've got a lot to cover today, so we are going to jump right on in. Joining me is the Buddy Read feature co-host, Classy Green. Welcome back, Classy.
Hi, Tamara. Hi, everyone.
Hey. Today we are discussing Dr. Sleep by Stephen King in all of its iterations. We are talking about the book, the audiobook, the movie adaptation, all of that fun stuff. And so let me give you the stats on the book, and then Classy will give us the synopsis as always. So this was published September 24th, 2013 by Scribner, of course, by Stephen King, narrated by Will Patton. It is the second book in the Shining series. The length is 18 hours and 34 minutes unabridged on audio, and the hardcover comes in at 531 pages, and the audio book was published by Simon & Schuster Audio. So that was a mouthful, a lot going on there.
A lot.
I usually don't give the book info and the audiobook info, but since that's what we experienced, that is what you get. All right, so Classy, hopefully your synopsis is more succinct than what I had to do.
It's a long synopsis, and
okay,
it's Stephen King.
Oh Lord. Okay,
so
well you can sum it up.
I'm gonna try and break it up a little bit here. Stephen King returns to the characters and territory of one of his most popular novels ever, The Shining. In this instantly riveting novel about the now middle-aged Dan Torrance, the boy protagonist of The Shining, and the very special 12-year-old girl he must save from a tribe of murderous paranormals. On highways across America, a tribe of people called the True Knot travel in search of sustenance. They look harmless, mostly old, lots of polyester, and married to their RVs. But as Dan Torrance knows and spunky 12-year-old Amber Stone learns, the True Knot are quasi-immortal, living off the steam that children with The Shining produce when they are slowly tortured to death. I'm going to stop there.
That is a really good description and tells a lot of the book.
I was like, ooh, did I read that book? No, just kidding. Well, we've read some synopsis and we're like, That's
That
not what
doesn't
I
match.
read.
Like, what are they talking about?
Right. Are we doing the right podcast?
I know, like, oh my gosh. So yes, this synopsis actually matches the book for once,
It
which is
does.
awesome.
It is.
And if you're looking at the video version of this podcast, you can see the book, the hardcover. It's a pretty chunky book.
Yes.
But I like the cover art.
Yeah, the cover art is really nice.
Yeah,
And it
this is,
kind
I
of
guess, the
matches some parts
steam.
from
The letters
right.
are the steam.
Ah, yes. And the red is Conchetta's cancer. I was
Yeah.
gonna say, should I say it or we're gonna spoil it? But you guys know we have spoilers, so yes.
Yeah, spoiler. You know, I gave you that spoiler alert in the intro. You know
That's
what's up.
right. That's right.
So, okay, let's just jump right on in. I mean, honestly, this is horror. We don't do a lot of horror on our show, but because of the time of year, I thought it would be fun to do something a little bit different. And I really enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Did you like it overall?
I liked it overall. I didn't like when I thought of horror. You know, you always hear these tales of Stephen King and how scary his books are. And I really wasn't, this didn't scare me. But I have a friend who is a huge Stephen King fan, and she's like, Dr. Sleep is nothing like Stephen's other work because, you know, she said, that's because he's lucid. You know, he's not on drugs and hallucinating like he was during his Shining days and It and Carrie. So, you know, I liked it.
Yeah.
Wasn't like,
I wasn't scared either.
no, I wasn't scared at all. And I had a friend who's on Goodreads who saw me reading it, and she's like, I'm getting really scared. And I was like, I haven't got there yet, and I never did get there. So
no, I wasn't scared. I feel like a lot of people have also shelved this book as a thriller, which I would agree with.
mm-hmm.
So I think it could be a thriller. It's just got a lot of fantasy woven in and supernatural things.
Yeah.
But of course, it is tagged number 1 as horror, although neither one of us were scared.
No, I think it's just because it's Stephen King. And
yeah,
you know, even the synopsis mentioned paranormal. So I would even, like you said, mark it paranormal thriller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, so, and this is another thing that I kind of knew going into it, but I was glad that the book reinforced this. And that's the fact that even though it's a sequel, you do not need to read The Shining. You do not, because I did not read The Shining and I had no desire to.
No, I did not either. I did watch the movie, so I did get some of the references, but after reading this, I wondered, like, should I read The Shining after reading this? And I'm like, I don't know. If you know,
I thought the same thing as you, Classy, but the reason why I put the brakes on it is because I remember clearly, like, articles that I read, people are saying that when he wrote The Shining in the late 70s, his writing style, like we just said, is very different than this. So I might not even like it. So
true.
There's that.
Right. And I'm like, okay, so I got that out. I could check that off my list. I read a Stephen King book from cover to cover because I started Cujo, I think, when I was in high school or something. And I just didn't get far.
Now, I must admit, I have watched tons of Stephen King adaptations, but have not read a lot of his books.
Right.
Like, in my mind, I distinctly remember reading Needful Things, and I thought when I read that, I thought I was a little creeped out by it, but not, like, scared.
Yeah, right.
But, you know, I remember watching, I'll tell you guys this quick story. This one is funny. When I was in my early 20s, I was staying with a boyfriend at the time, and it was a Stephen King marathon on. I don't know if I ever told you this, Classy. So I'm like, okay, I'll watch Stephen King. So I wake up, it's a Saturday. The boyfriend had to go to work. So I started in the morning and I watched The Stand Part 1 and 2. So I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Right.
Then after that, it came on. I watched that. Then after that, there was Rose Red, which was about a haunted house. And you know me and Ghost, we had this conversation about Ghost. That's how I finished. So I was literally watching Stephen King from sunup to sundown all day. So by the time I finished, it was around 10 o'clock at night. The boyfriend comes in and he says, "Why is every light in here on?" I said, "What?" And when I started to notice, I guess throughout, as the sun started changing, I must have unconsciously got up and started turning on every light. Low light, the kitchen light, the dining room light, the living room light, the bedroom light, both bathroom lights, the closet light. Every light was on.
You probably got up and started walking around and just like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. Flick, checking to make sure nobody's under the bed, hiding behind doors.
But the walk-in closet, that light was on too.
Oh yeah, you were creeped out, man.
So I creeped myself out, and I'm like, okay, obviously I have a limit for what I can watch in a day. And I learned that was the time I learned that. So now I know what to do, not to,
Right, or before dusk, you're done.
Oh yeah. I'm done long before, like if I'm watching anything that I deem as scary, I'm watching it in the morning and I'm done by noon because I want the rest of the day to like filter other things through.
Happy thoughts, rainbows, unicorns, all that kind of stuff.
Food Network, whatever. Anything that is not going to scare me half to death when I'm looking into the darkness of my bedroom at night.
Right, and shadows that appear on the ceiling. Yeah.
Right.
I've been like that. That's how I was with Anne Rice when I first read her The Witching Hour. So
I like that book. I remember it.
Yeah, that apparition that was like over the bed watching, I could swear I saw it. I saw it. Yeah, and I was pregnant with one of my kids, and the little one my oldest son was sleeping with me, and I could swear I saw something in the corner of my bedroom. And like you, we turned on the lights and sat up for the rest of the night till my husband came home. Because he worked evenings, and we were like, we're going to stay up till Dad gets here.
Oh,
we're going to have a little chat.
Oh my God. I hate when that happens, but
Yeah, I had to get it. I had the willies, man. I had the willies.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah. Lord, I think we've all had at least one good story like that.
Yes. But no, this one wasn't scary at all.
No. But I did like it though. I thought that, I mean, to be honest, it kind of had a slow start, which is ultimately why I switched to the book. So I ended up, like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, listening and reading. Yeah. So I read some, listened some, read some, and I was able to get through, 20 plus hours of that with the reading. If I was doing all audiobook, I'm not sure.
No, because at some point with the audio, even though, is his name Will Patton? I can't remember. Yeah. Even though he's a good narrator, I began to get lulled with the reading, and I think we even kind of chatted about that with this book. You needed to be totally focused. You could not be cleaning the house and running errands, and you darn near couldn't drive. There were a few times I felt like I can't even do this while I'm driving, or I felt like I had to like hit rewind or the 30-second rewind to hear something, because he throws some banter in there, and even though it's fun banter, it's still some tidbits that I'm not sure, was it important or was it just banter? So I felt like I really needed, it was one of those books that you needed to sit down, as you said, and listen to or read. And that's when I really began to enjoy the story and understand what was going on, because like you said, it was a slow start. I was struggling with who the True Knot were and who is this snake bite Andy and the transformation and the steam, and I can't even remember.
These were the notes in the beginning. I made a ton of notes because I had to sort out what was what in the beginning. But at a certain point, I couldn't tell you where suddenly it just everything clicked like I knew it would. It was just
Yeah.
waiting on that point.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. It was like, I can't even tell you at what percentage that everything was like, and it
Yeah.
might have been, I think I might have wrote down the hat. It was something with the hat. And it clicked that the hat was, I think when Denny, because remember Denny said, don't trust the woman with the hat.
Yeah.
And then there was something down it might have been when Abra said, she wears a hat, or her name is Rose the Hat, or something like that. And I was like, got it. Now I see what's going on. But yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I made a note of that. It was around page 244 when Dan was remembering a dream. And in the dream, what's his face said to him, the queen bitch of Castle Hill, she was describing
Dick.
That's who the woman in the hat is, because he was trying to ask Dick, who is that? Who is she? And he's like, queen bitch of Castle Hill. That's who she is.
Yep.
Like, oh no. So,
and also to be around there.
Yeah, and also in the book, I found like there were a lot of times where print was all caps. There was a lot of italics and different things that kind of like emphasize things differently.
Right.
And I think seeing it on the page helped too.
It did. And then there were times where the print on the page I struggled with, because, and I'm not sure if you noticed that, but there was a few times where there was no punctuation, and it was like, did you see that? Okay. And and I was like, thank God for the narrator, because he knew like when to stop, or was this just a quick run on? Because I'm reading it and I'm like, I don't get it. Yeah. I didn't get it. And then I had to like read it again. And I think I went to the narration and kind of, got it. And then I said, because I think I remember Casey saying she didn't like the writing style. And when I was reading this, I was like, I wonder if this is what she didn't like, because if you're not used to him, it was kind of hard a few times with some of his no punctuation. And those were mostly like some of the banter or the talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also did not like how this book was organized. Like every chapter, so like within a chapter, it's almost like verses or something. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it will start over in the next chapter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And it's like, wait a minute. And sometimes you'll have 2 sentences. It will say 4 and 2 sentences, and then 5, and then 2 pages.
Yep.
And then it's like, well, how? I don't understand the numbering of what's happening in each chapter.
Yeah, that was something I wrote down that I was supposed to research, but I didn't. But yeah, I felt the same way, because it even confused me a few times when I would rewind, or I would like, there's some times where you'll go ahead of where, you last read, and it's like, I can't remember. Thank God for the book though, or, where you can kind of tag it, and so I would say my safest bet is to go to the book and and like you were saying, that's the hard part. Well, I had a library book and mine was a large print. So large print didn't help me because of the page numbering of, trying to find my place in the audiobook. So,
well, see, that's why I tried to stop on when there was an actual chapter with a title. So like chapter 1, Welcome to Teeny Town, for example. So I would stop when it was that. So whenever it's 1, 2, I just keep blasting through until I got to chapter 2, bad numbers. I'm like, okay, stop there. Gotcha. Because that's the only way I could keep track of it, because going back and forth between the two, I would be sifting through pages trying to find where
you were. Yep.
Yeah, and it was difficult. So I'm like, now I just have to just force myself to get to the next full chapter.
Right. But yeah, those were some things I didn't care for as well.
Yeah. So we're talking structural things we didn't like about the book. Formatting, sometimes the writing.
Yeah.
But if you could get past that, the story is good. The story itself was good, I think. it's weird. It's hard to explain. Like, I really didn't like any of the characters, but I liked the characters. Does that even make sense? It doesn't. I know it
No,
doesn't.
you know what? It doesn't, but what I can say, and I think this is why you didn't like them, but you did, because this man knows how to develop a character.
Yeah.
His character development, I mean, you got the back, and it was a lot of characters, but you began to know these characters, and I think that was probably why you didn't like them, because you darn near knew them. You know, I knew who Crow Daddy was, Grandpa Flick. Even though Grandpa Flick, a lot of the things we learned about Grandpa Flick was from somebody else. You know, it was a
Right.
secondhand story. So that I can say that Stephen King knows how to, to write a
He
character,
does.
and
Mhm.
he did a damn good job in this book. And I mean, he did. I mean, we knew Dan. We
Abra.
didn't,
Oh my God. From birth, we knew Abra. Like,
man. And that it was just phenomenal that we
yeah.
got to know all of these. I mean, Rose the Hat from when she was in Ireland, and all the true, not all of them, but if not
The
all
main
of them,
ones.
that
Yeah.
we knew where they came from. You know,
Mhm.
that these people were old, and he gave us their backstory. Lucy and Lucy's mom and Conchetta, and he weaved all of that into this
Mhm.
story. And I mean, there was a lot of subplots and whatever, but we knew the characters.
And
And
Dan's story. Like,
yeah,
we knew about, his mother and his father and the Overlook Hotel. Those
yeah,
things from The Shining.
yep, Dick. I mean,
Yeah.
Dick, come on.
Dick.
Dick and his grandparents and his dark dad grandpa, his black grandpa, which
Oh my
wasn't
gosh,
really
that
a black
grandfather was
grandpa. It was,
scary.
yeah, but
That was
at first,
scary.
yeah,
Like, he
that
told that
was,
story to Dan when he was a kid.
yeah,
Oh my God.
the black grandpa. And at first I'm like, why are he calling him the black grandpa? And it wasn't his skin color, it was his spirit. He was dark, because at first I'm like, but he's black, and I mean, and granted, you can have kids who are biracial who can look like me and not look, more on the lighter tone. And I was like, okay, maybe, but I started listening, and he was talking about his black spirit and how dark he was, and his grandma, and the white grandma, because she had this spirit of light in her. And those are the things that I really enjoyed, that this man, gosh, he can tell a story.
Yeah. And I feel like his world building was very consistent.
Yeah,
When it came to The Shining, what kind of things each person could do and couldn't do, how it got stronger for a while and then weaker as you got older.
yeah,
Those type of things. I really like consistency with the world building and storytelling as far as that. And he did that.
yeah.
It was consistent when Dick was talking about his experiences as a child, when
Hmm.
he told, Danny at the time, because he was a child, how to deal with the Overlook ghosts that were coming to visit him
Yeah,
and scare the shit out of him.
put him in
When
those
it came,
boxes.
yeah, those boxes. And when it came to time for Dan to pay it forward, like, dude, the student will appear, the student is ready. Now the teacher will
Yeah,
appear.
yeah.
So get with it.
Yeah,
It's your
and he had,
turn.
yeah, and he had to teach Abra, and he
Yeah.
and he taught her, and like you said,
Mhm.
it was consistent. We didn't have to question anything. It was, or like, or figure like, now why is it like this and not like that? And everybody's
Mhm.
shining was different, and that I got, because
Yeah.
everybody's experience and whatever, is different. Like Billy's shining was different compared to Abra's, and whatever. But there was one universal thing about their shining, and yeah, his world building was also excellent.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, the parts at the beginning when Dan was a kid, I think that was the most creepy out of it, like with the ghost that was in his bathroom.
Bathroom, yeah.
He went back in there. I mean, he was in there. He saw all the goop and stuff. He was grossed out. He went to use the bathroom in the sink. He came back. I mean, so after he got told what to do with the box, visualize this box kind of thing. He's like, "Oh, I got something for your ass. I'm going in that bathroom."
Oh,
I'm like,
that Miss,
"Oh,
whatever her name was it Miss Violet or Miss Vi, whatever her name was at
yeah."
237?
Oh, like,
I got something for you.
oh boy, you're not gonna like that.
What they say was like some rumbling going on in the bathroom, screaming or whatever. Take care of her. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
take care of it. Don't even worry. I know what to do now.
Yeah.
I'm
Like
not
I said,
scared.
those probably were
Yeah,
the scariest parts of the story. The beginning, Dick
yeah.
Halloran's story about his grandpa. I wanted to kill grandpa, dark black
He
grandpa,
is
so bad.
awful. He was awful person.
And I'm like, oh my God, Steven, you tell, and even Dick was like, I know I shouldn't be telling a little boy this story, but I was like, no, you
I feel like
shouldn't.
he was trying to make a point, though. I think he
Yeah,
was trying to say,
look how dark my life was, and
yeah,
yeah, because it
yeah.
was dark.
Hmm.
Oh,
But I mean, Dan couldn't even, and that's like the thing about this book. Like these characters, I didn't even realize how. Okay, so let's just talk about like the familial ties between Dan and Abra. Those kind of came out of left field for me. Like, when Abra met him, she's like, "Oh, this is my Uncle Dan,"
right.
and he went along with it. But later he's like, "Oh my gosh."
If I
His
would have just paid attention.
Yes. So he ended up being Abra's mother's half brother. They had the same father.
Yeah.
And so that
'Cause I
was
think
like,
she said
wow.
something like, not even just Uncle Dan. I think she said we are related. Oh God, I should have wrote that down. We're related, like somehow, some way, like
Yeah, she
we're all
explained like how
related.
everyone's
It's
related or
related, yeah.
something. Yeah.
Mhm.
Which was really smart. The little girl is very smart.
Yeah.
Um and very, very powerful. I mean, the fact that you can just talk to each other, through your mind, you can what is the word I'm looking for? You can make yourself appear somewhere else than where you are.
Is that not, well, telepathic is the mind, but I know, yeah, I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Yeah.
So it's like she would be in one place, but she would like
Transport.
throw her mind somewhere else where people would think she was somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, and
But I
she
mean,
did
that
all of this
steam when she
without
was a
any
baby.
training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she knew when 9/11 was about to occur. Um,
She couldn't even talk at that
no,
point.
but
She was
oh
crying.
yeah, she was crying, just crying, crying. But,
Hmm.
you know, I knew something was up when Conchetta said, did she have the sheath on her or something? And I've heard that before. And I think this too about this story is because this shining thing, um, in my family, I've heard of, and it wasn't called The Shining, but I've heard of people in my family who have had this kind of intuition, and I mean, everybody, like I said, everybody has a shining, but everybody's
Yeah.
is different. But I remember hearing these stories, and um, I think Conchetta said,
Sometimes it's called empath. Like some people can be empathic as far as,
mm-hmm, yeah. And
yeah.
you remember she said, did the baby have the I won't call it a coating, but when she was born, remember Conchetta asked
Oh,
Lucy, did
yeah.
she have that on her? It was almost like
It's like the
a
sac, like
coat.
the embryonic sac.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
have said if babies are born with that on them, that they have a gift.
But
And
the
I'm like,
mother wanted to keep it.
yeah,
And Dan, not Dan, whatever her daddy's name is.
David,
Dave, thank you.
Dad.
Dave said, "Oh well, they threw it out."
Oh well, it's
Oh
gone
well, what
now.
can tell
Yeah,
you?
but that is a and he probably got that from research too. But yeah, that is something that if a baby is born with that sac on them, that they are said to have some kind of power.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to listen to this story, I had flashbacks of my great grandmother telling me these stories of, uh, you know, voodoo and gifts and people having the gift of um, seeing the future and being able to tell somebody's future prophetic and all those type of things. And I'm like, it doesn't seem believable, but it's like I've heard of these things, and they said there's always a little truth in some stories. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I personally have never met anyone that I think would fall into that category, but I've definitely met some people, and at times I've had really strong intuitions of things, or even sometimes, like it's happened only a handful of times where like I will feel like I've literally done something before, like more than deja vu. Like I've had this conversation or I remember this conversation, and it freaks me
Yeah.
out.
The
So
hairs on the back of your necks just begin to stand up, or you just like,
yeah.
I've been here before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we all definitely have a little bit of what they would call the shine. It's
Hmm.
whether you listen to it or not, or you tune into it or not.
Yeah.
And some people have more, some people have less, just like
Less.
in this book.
Hmm.
But I definitely, this is a whole new level.
Oh yeah. He took it another level.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and the sad stuff in this book was like how the True Knot would like torture these children. Like the baseball boy, that's what she was calling him at first. Like
Yeah.
they tortured him, like just because the steam is purified or something as they get tortured
Yeah.
through the pain of it,
Hmm. Yeah.
apparently.
And the movie helped. I mean, I hate to say helped, but watching the movie and seeing Bradley, aka the baseball boy, get tortured and releasing the steam,
Yeah.
the visualization was just, man, it
It
brought it
puts
to
it into
life.
place.
It
Yeah.
did. It really brought it into, because when you read it, you're just like, okay, he was tortured. But you don't realize that, because I can't even remember in the book that they say as he's tortured that he because when he's screaming, he's letting out that steam or his breath, and it may have said it, but it didn't bring it to life.
I felt like in the book, because you know how they would, like Dan became like Dr. Sleep because, he would help people pass. And when they talked about the steam from his patients, like kind of like that
The
exhale when they
gasp.
die,
Hmm.
I thought that that is what was happening to the children, but that's
Yeah.
not what was happening to the children.
No.
As they're screaming, they're exhaling this steam that they're absorbing as they're screaming in pain,
Yeah.
which is not clarified in the book. In my mind, I just assumed it was like the death version.
Yeah, because he'd even mentioned that a nurse had said, I think he said at a previous employer, he said a nurse said she remembers seeing that gasp of air when the people would die. So I did too. I was just thinking, oh, it's just, that when they
Yeah.
die and they're releasing it. But no, the True
Mm-mm.
Knots, they basically stabbed them and
Cutting
then
them
would
and
just like, basically she stuck her finger in the hole, and the more he screamed, yeah. And in the movie, to see how the True Knot members just prayed when that steam came. Oh my God, they were like little vultures. I mean, they just laid on him to inhale all his steam. It was just, or no, that's when Grandpa Flick died, which
yeah,
wasn't like
which
in the
that
book.
did not happen in the book. In the book, they
No.
did not inhale their own people's steam like that.
No,
That did
because
not
for one,
happen.
Grandpa Flick in the book died from measles, so they definitely
Yeah.
would not have inhaled his steam. But that little visualization helped too with, this is how they, because they want to live longer, so they need it. It wasn't just a matter of a,
Yeah, but
that's
they
what I
did
was thinking.
have the scene in the movie with the baseball kid, the baseball
Yeah, oh
boy.
my God,
Like
that
she was,
was,
they were like kind of cut him, and like she would kind of just inhale it like it was a. You know how sometimes you get in like in front of like these steam machines for your
mm-hmm,
face, and you're like trying to wave the steam in your face and
so you
inhale
can
it.
get a good,
That is what she is doing.
yeah,
All of
and then
them.
putting it into a canister. She
Yeah.
would like she would inhale it and then blow it into the canister, but all the other members would just inhale it for themselves because she was saving it for future. But
for
everybody
rainy
else,
days when they couldn't find anything
right,
anyone to kill.
right, because they said the steam was it was getting less and less. They weren't finding as many children, and they only picked children because the steam, as we learned, or the shine, was more powerful when they were
As the children. Yeah. And for some people it would go away completely. Like, remember when, Dr. John, which was also another awesome connection, like how Dr. John like was Abra's doctor, but also knew Dan, that was very interesting connection. But anyway, oh shoot, I forgot what I was saying.
You're saying how it changes or it gets less when they get older? Were you saying?
Yeah. Well, yeah, like he was explaining to him, like, when they were talking about Abra in the book that first time, and he was kind of surprised by, when he saw the spoon incident at the birthday.
Right.
And like, people would say like, oh, it might go away altogether,
Yeah.
This might not even be an issue in a couple of years.
Right. Yeah, he did tell her parents that, right.
Yeah.
Don't even worry about it. This just might go away. And it did not.
It got stronger. And she just got smarter about hiding it, as most kids would.
Yeah.
Like, well, this upsets my parents, so I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah. And her being able to chat with Dan when she was a baby, what was it, like 8 years? Well, she wasn't 8 years, but she was a baby. And Abra, I think he wrote it down in his little Alcoholics Anonymous book. He wrote down her name, and then she would chat through his whiteboard. And wow. Yeah.
Which was interesting too. So like when she was a baby, he could hear her. So I think that's how he knew her name was Abra. But I think she was around 8 or so when she wrote on his chalkboard.
Right.
Because she thought she was writing to Tony.
Right. But right. So 8 years prior to her writing on the board is when he wrote in his book.
Her name.
Right. And she was a baby. And that's how he was able to kind of connect with Dr. John and show him, look, 8 years ago, I wrote her name down. And I didn't just write it down. You can look at the ledger basically and see that I connected with this child 8 years ago.
She connected with me, brother.
Yeah. Where's Tony? Where's your son, Tony? And at first I was like, who is Tony? I didn't realize. Because even in the book that they mentioned that Tony was his imaginary friend or basically his shining. Okay.
They did. Because they also explained like, she would, that's why he signed it. I think Tony's dad or something like that.
Yeah.
Like he signed the chalkboard thing back. And that made sense because he kept thinking in the book, he's like, oh my God, like this is a kid. I can't be hanging out with this dang on kid. And that was something that was also, very different how they met, like in the movie versus the book. In the book, I felt like they had time to develop that relationship. And when, they met at the library, I felt like, okay, they knew each other and she was able to walk up to him and be like, hey, Uncle Dan, they had developed a rapport. In the movie, it was like real fast. And then she's walking up to him at his job.
Right. It was almost like they tried to make it seem like her power, which was okay, but a little different, that her powers were so strong that she could locate him, like GPS him, that I know exactly where he's at. And
that's what she did.
Yeah.
In the movie. But in the book, they set that place. They set the, So I believed that relationship between them more in the book than I did in the movie.
Yeah, they rushed it in the book. They rushed it so.
In the movie, you mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry. In the movie, they rushed their relationship, and because it got to the point where in the book he was saying, I can't be with this little girl because people are crazy. They're going to think I'm a pedophile. Where in the movie, it really felt like pedophilia. Even Billy looked at him like, who the hell?
Where are you going with that kid?
That little girl. Yeah, it really felt that pedophile feel to it. So,
because in the book they had time, the author had time. So like, when they first had their first meeting, she was like, oh, it's fine. And then she knew a little nosy girl was coming. And so
mm-hmm,
they together kind of said, nothing to see over here. Keep
right,
looking. Like together, they kind
right.
of like got that
Shooed her
girl to
away.
just wave and keep going.
Yep.
Like she didn't even know, nosy girl didn't even notice them.
Nope, they both, and that just kind of showed, like you said, their connection and their power of them
Yeah.
working together. And Dan didn't even realize, I think, until she came into his life, how much power he still had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was phenomenal in the book, and in the movie, it was really lackluster for me.
Yeah, it really was. It's like,
Yeah.
really? Come on, this is how you guys meet? There's just so
I
much
mean,
more
I
to
missed
it.
even like grasping Abra's powers, because in the book we got to see from, like you said, we were talking about 9/11, we were talking about the 8th birthday party. We had more than one time to see her powers just grow and grow before we can believe that she could do these amazing things. And in
Yeah,
the movie, we were just bam, given it and expected to just go with it.
right. And it was just so much more, the vendetta, the revenge that she had against Rose the Hat for killing this boy. She it was the girl and her powers were, yeah, the movie did nothing for
No.
Abra and her abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nothing.
She can do so much. I mean,
They
even
even
in the
mentioned how she would like find stuff for her mom, and even though mom only did it a few times, she did the earthquake, which, she made I think that's when the boy was killed, right? Isn't that when she caused the so-called earthquake? Or was that
I
when
think she was
Rose?
reliving it or something.
Okay,
Like
yeah,
she was seeing it.
yeah. Or when she
Yeah.
saw Rose or something like that. But, just those little tidbits, because at that point, the parents thought because her dad was like, "Oh, we got an earthquake," because he thought she didn't have her powers had disappeared.
Yeah,
So
because she
he didn't even.
stopped doing things.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
started hiding it. So
And I mean, Rose was over and over again. She keeps saying like it was in the book too, but in the movie too, excuse me. But in the book, it was real apparent how she really underestimated her time and time and time again. She faced that little girl a couple of times and she got. Like I loved in the book the first time, like Rose came for her because after she and Dan had that conversation, and this didn't happen in the movie, but in the book, Dan said, set an alarm because she's gonna come.
yes,
Set an alarm.
that
I
was
was like, oh my God. So
that was
she
my
goes
favorite.
home and she's like, I'm gonna do better than that. I'm gonna set a trap for her.
She had that look on her
She
face.
did. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, this little girl got something for you. She got something for you. And then when Rose shows up, like she knew she
Did.
would.
Because she was like, little bitch girl, you don't know
Like,
what you
oh my
got.
God.
And
She
she
like,
came in like Daenerys on the. I
yeah,
was
she
like,
did. Yeah,
man.
she thought she was Daenerys Stormborn in that mug.
Yeah, she
She was
did.
acting
She was
like
like,
it.
Dan, guess what I did?
And he's looking like, what? I just told you to set an alarm. What did you do? And he's like, what if she comes back? She like, I dare her ass to come back, basically.
Yeah.
She's not coming back.
She like, I got all these boxes, basically all these file cabinets for her ass.
That was the best. I
Yeah.
thought it was awesome.
That
I'm
was
like,
probably my
wow.
favorite part. That probably was
Yeah.
my favorite part, because I was like, I think I even said, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, nobody knows what I'm guessing for in this book.
And Abra, like, she is like, I don't feel bad about it. She deserved it and more.
Mm-hmm. That's what she gets for killing kids. And I was like,
Yep.
yes, that's what you get.
Exactly. That's what your dumb ass get. Come on in here if you want to.
Don't
Got
come for
something
me
for
unless
you.
I send for you.
Right. And I mean, and it keeps happening. She keeps thinking she get out with this little girl, and this little smart mouth little girl got.
Yeah.
You
Well, she
bring
was just
it.
thinking she does it. She's not that wise. I've been around so long, and she underestimated her little youth. She was a smart Smart little girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a
Which in the end, she turned out to have, like, I didn't realize, like, this family temper. I mean, in the end, Dan's like telling her, hey, why don't you go to the junkyard and get your frustration out, because
right.
you're going to hurt somebody one day.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. She tore her mother's china. She's like, it was ugly.
Just like a teenager would say,
yes,
too.
It was
like
ugly.
a 15-year-old.
It was ugly.
Ugly.
That was a very good idea. Go throw some junkers, some junk cars and stuff like that around.
Wear yourself out at the junkyard. Don't do that to your mother's stuff.
And she tried to lie to him, and he's like, come on now. Come on, girl.
Better than that. Come on.
Right.
What are you doing?
Come on now. We have talked to each other like this.
Like mind melded. Like, to the point where I was in your body. Okay? I was in your body, operating your body.
I can tell when you're lying, Abra.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because, speaking of which, I really loved, like, at first I thought that plan at the end was a little over the top. I'm like, there were so many moving pieces. They got dolls acting like it's Abra. There were so many moving
Billy
pieces.
Billy doing flips. I was like, what the hell?
Doing like round offs and cartwheels and shit. It's like, what is happening?
I had to rewind that because I was like, Billy?
Yes.
Are we right?
He was trying to look young. And
that hat fell off.
Yeah.
And what got me is she's like, he walks like he's got arthritis. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
That'll give it away right there.
And she's like sitting there like, wait a minute. That little girl has not moved. She has not moved at all.
No.
So I'm like, but I thought it was so dramatic and over the top. So it's like one over here, pretend she's over here, but she's really over here. And she's not even actually there. She's just projecting herself. She's astral projecting herself. That's what it is.
Because she was in New Hampshire and they were in Colorado?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she astral projected herself across the country, basically.
Through the eyes of Dan, right? Or through the eyes of the doll.
I felt like she was kind of there. Like, because remember Billy had saw her, so he could see like her ghost of her. She didn't look all the way solid.
Okay.
So so she was inside of Dan's head a little bit, but when it came down to the showdown, she was like there.
Just crazy. Crazy. Yeah. It was over the top, and it was like they had to do that with this woman because they weren't sure. I mean, they weren't sure who all was at the Overlook campground.
Yeah.
Because, all they knew about was Crow Daddy and, the other people who had passed away. But they didn't know about Siri. Was that her name? And they knew it was some more people, but those people had left. So they weren't sure who they were facing outside of Rose. So I did think it was over the top, but it was like...
It worked.
Yeah.
It came down to it worked.
Yeah. But it was like they had to do something because this woman, she was going for the jugular.
Rose goes, oh, I have the upper hand. I know this place. I put my people in there. And then she started thinking, wait a minute, that wasn't my idea to have all her people in the hotel. It's like, it's too late, too late. They did. It's too late.
No, ma'am. Somebody else put that in your head.
Yeah.
She made that plan.
And she had that plan, but Dan helped her. Mm-hmm. He said, she's going to try to distract you. Don't let her talk. Get in there and tell her. Right. And she ran her little 12-year-old mouth, pissing that woman off. Got her to agree to shit she didn't even know what she was agreeing to.
Mm-mm. Yeah. She was like, you're a little smarty pants. Okay, I got something for you. But she didn't.
No, that whole thing, it was awesome. I'm like, and then when I saw what they did with the movie, I'm like, dang, they left characters out altogether.
Lots of characters and got rid of some characters.
Yeah, got rid of some characters. I'm like, what the hell's going on? How they even killed Dan in the movie?
I know.
I'm
Or
like,
Billy. Like, how you just gonna have Snakebite Andy make Billy kill himself?
yeah,
That
that
hurt
was
me.
crazy.
That was just
And
like,
Billy was in the movie. That was like
he was
Billy.
key.
Yeah, and he was too young in the movie.
Yeah, he was. He was
He's
way
supposed to
too
be an
young.
old man.
Yeah, and they basically combined Casey, which was Dan's boss in Teeny Town, and his AA mentor. They combined Billy in the movie. Billy was
Yeah.
like Casey and Billy in one. And
there was no Dr. John at all.
yeah, he was. Dr. John was like in charge of
Right, but he
the
wasn't
AA.
a part of their plan at all. He
No, he
was
wasn't.
excluded.
Yeah, he was, because he was the one who went and dug up the body
Yeah.
with Dan, and they killed Abra's dad in the movie. He survived in the book.
Everybody on the good side survived in the book.
Yeah, and they killed. And then the gunfight. It was like, this is how you got. No, people died from the measles. Remember?
Yes, and the measles was a better story.
Yeah. Than that gunfight in the damn woods. I'm like,
yeah, because Billy, so even that whole thing, like, with old boy going back and what's the guy's name? The Crow.
Crow Daddy.
Crow Daddy, yeah. I feel like that was all gone because without Billy as leverage to get Abra to do what he wanted,
it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Not if you've read the book. It didn't.
Right.
It just felt like contrived. I'm like, it was really, yeah. Because I was like, okay, so how is he gonna steal Abra? Oh, she's at home with her dad. I'll kill dad.
And then they kill the dad. And I'm like, no. Because
I was like, yeah, he's the black man. He's got to be the first. No.
Stephen King did it much better in the book. And I couldn't help but wonder if I had watched that movie without reading the book, would I understand what the fuck was going on?
Yeah. Because it was just a lot. Even the story of Deanie and her son. Her son haunted Dan. That was a part of his alcoholic, life, and him being an alcoholic also was key to the story. Without him going to AA and that struggle and always wanting to drink because this was a trait from his father, and Deanie's little boy, him taking the money and knowing the little boy was abused by it, all those were really key elements in the story and the backdrop to Dan's story. And
he carried extreme guilt over that.
Yeah, he did. And all we see is both of them as corpse, in his bed. I mean, granted, they did die, but you really needed to know that backstory for him to continue,
because he didn't see them die.
No,
when he left, they were fine.
Alive. Yeah,
they were
but
alive.
He did have a premonition or a shining that the uncle
did something to the.
Yeah, but I mean that voice of Kenny, hearing that baby say Kenny is haunting. To see a kid like that, it was just so. Yeah, the movie, I felt like the movie was really rushed. That some of the things that they switched around and left out, like the Dick Halloran story. Dick is a ghost at the beginning of the story, and he is not a ghost. Wendy called him to talk to Danny, but in the beginning of the book, he's a ghost sitting there, and Danny ran away, and Wendy didn't know where he was. And I'm like,
and that confused me. I'm like, wait a minute, in the book he's not a ghost.
No,
I'm like, wait, what?
He was alive and well in the book. Yeah, so
why did they do that? Like, that was pointless. They could have easily followed the book on that. There was no reason to change that.
No, because that same plot line and that same story that Dick told Danny could have been told the same way. We didn't need him to disappear. Yeah, it was just
the movie just did not hit it.
No.
And I really struggled with knowing if I would have enjoyed that movie without, and you'll never know, right? Because I'm the kind of person where if I watch the movie or TV show first, I'm not going to go back and read the book because
No.
I know it's going to be not what I expect it to be.
Yeah. And you know the ending, or
Yeah.
somewhat of the end. You know what I mean? You know the plot, the possible plot twist or a possible ending. So it spoiled it for you.
Yeah.
It spoils it for you.
But I always go the other way where I read it first and then watch it. And 9 times out of 10, it's very rare when I feel like the movie was done better than the book.
Yeah.
Gone usually Girl. The book is always, yeah.
You know how we are with that one.
Yeah.
That's probably one
Actually, of the Gone Girl was a very, very good adaptation.
I won't go there with that, but yes, because I could go on and on about that movie. Because at one point I thought, now I know I read this book. And I know that's, it's like, I know the ending, but that movie was so damn good that it even made me question, is that how it's going to end?
Yeah.
That's how good it was. But I digress.
Well, just to throw one more out there, this is the one movie that I can remember in recent history where I felt that it was actually better than the book. And that was Girl on the Train. I thought that book was ugh.
Yeah.
But the movie was better, even though the movie wasn't great. It wasn't a great movie, but it was better than the book.
Yeah, it did help with some of those, because sometimes in the books, and even like we were saying here with this story, like the steam, like, you don't get that. You don't get the understanding of the steam until you watch the movie. And with Girl on the Train, there was a few things, and I don't know if it was because of the unreliable narrator, because she was really, really unreliable. But to watch it, you're just like, oh, I did some things started clicking.
Yes.
Like, now because you can see it, like, and I don't know if it was, and you just made me like have a flashback of her sitting on that train and being able to see them
into the yard. Yeah. The house.
And it was just like, I get it. Because to read it, it's just like, but to see her getting on that train every damn day.
Yeah. And it actually made me like the book a little more after seeing the movie.
Yeah.
Although the movie was better done than the book.
Yeah.
I think, I don't want to get into that because I could go off on a tangent about that.
Yeah. And and that just goes to say with the writing, because she didn't develop enough for us to understand or get what that movie visualized for us. And that's what books are. Books are our visualization through words, and she didn't put enough into that book.
Because like for me, when I read a book, sometimes I feel like I'm watching a movie in my mind, or when I'm listening to a book, because I've been told before, when I talk about a book to someone or I tell them what happened in a book, so people have told me before, that sounds like a movie.
Yeah.
Because that's how I've translated it in my mind.
Right. And that's a good book usually.
Yeah.
Because you're just that excited and you're retelling it, like you said, as if it's rolled tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I liked it. I liked this book. Although, like we said, it was a little imperfect, but I still liked it. The movie was okay. I kind of wish I could get that 2 hours back.
Yeah. Now, and it's like, what did I like? What did I like about the movie? I did like Abra being a black girl.
I love that. I was like, oh, I love that. I noticed that right away. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
I love
did
it.
Enjoy that.
I'm down for it. Yeah.
I did enjoy that. I'm trying to think, what else did I like about the movie? I did, like I said, I did enjoy from the movie being able to see what the steam was about and the transformation, like, how, because remember I said how I told you I wasn't understanding how they changed Snakebite Andy. I wasn't getting it. In my mind, I just didn't understand what was happening there. But in the
What was it you
movie,
said in the book? In the book, you said it reminded you
it reminded
of.
me of Lovecraft Country when
Oh yeah,
Ruby was transforming into the white
yeah.
girl. You know, it was just like
Okay,
because she was screaming. Because
yeah,
Snakebite Andy was screaming, and because they were like, "You said it wasn't going to be painful," but she was screaming, and that's all I could see. And because I was trying to visualize it, and in my mind, that visualization of her screaming and transforming was like Ruby. You know how when her body started,
yeah. I do know what you mean, but I didn't think of it like that in the book at all. I thought
yeah.
of it more like a vampire transformation.
Mm,
But
see?
I didn't know she died. I didn't know she actually died.
Yeah. And that's what I
Um,
was like, "Ooh, that was and I still, but
yeah,
those are the type of things that I did like that it helped me to understand, like why they didn't take her steam, but they decided to transfer form her. Trying to think, I did like, I wanted to see the damn tusk. I wanted to see Rose Tusk. I mean, because they mentioned it so many
yeah.
times, her one little tooth, because, you know,
Yeah, they
I
didn't do
want
that at all. I was waiting on it. And I thought for sure they would show at least one time her turn into this,
her
older,
older self.
scary looking person with a one crazy tooth sticking out. But
Man.
they didn't do it. They didn't
No,
do it. So
I
Rose the
was,
Hat wasn't even scary.
nope. She was beautiful. That was it. She was
Hmm.
only scary when she was dying. And I was like, come on. Because there were times where she would just, because, that was that evil side of her. Because, everybody else thought she was just this beautiful young
Hmm.
lady hanging out in the RV. But Abra saw her for who
Yeah.
she was. And that's something that I wanted to see. Um, Trying to think what else I did like about the movie.
Well, they didn't really do Rose all the way right in the movie, I don't think. Aside from not seeing her dark side,
Hmm.
we didn't see, remember in the book, she like slept with everybody that she turned. They were all enamored with her. We didn't
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah, because Crow Daddy couldn't keep his hands off of her. And I'm like, okay.
In the movie, it seemed like Crow Daddy was her boyfriend. In the
Her
book, that's
sidekick.
not really what that was.
No, they were straight lovers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when they changed Andy, remember when Andy woke up, she was in Rose's bed and she was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
is
they
this
had
not going to happen again?" you know? I
yep.
mean, we didn't get to see all the sides of Rose like
Nope.
we did in the book. So even
Yeah,
that
and a
was
lot of the
short.
true right, and then a lot most of the True Knot people, they were in relationships. I mean, Snakebite Andy and Siri were lovers.
Mhm.
Um Somebody else. Yeah, so there were a few things where it was rushed. The movie
Mhm.
was very rushed. And I mean, granted, it's 2 hours. You're trying to convert a 600-page book, 18-hour narration into 2 hours. Um, but
2 hours and 32 minutes to be exact. For that much, they could have
yeah,
did better with that
they could have left
time.
out a lot. They could have left out the gunfight. They could have left out, yeah, there was a lot of things they could have left out. The
Yeah.
measles would have been extremely well done. You know,
Because that was important irony. Like that's what your ass get, all of you.
because you're in here breathing, thinking you're getting all this strength, and you're breathing in
Yeah.
disease.
Sickness.
Yeah,
Yes. That's
and
exactly
then
what
you
you get.
die from another sickness, the
Mhm.
cancer, and that was Momo. They barely even mentioned Conchetta. They mentioned no, they mentioned her once. Lucy said she was going to see Momo. Momo was key to this story.
Yes, because that is Dan was with her when she died in the book,
Yep,
and he absorbed her steam
yep,
and
that's
put it in a box that was leaky. At first, I'm like, what is wrong with Dan?
yes,
And then I'm like, oh
stomach.
shit.
I know. He was like, "You all right there?" And that's what Billy said. "You all right there, friend?"
He's
He's
like,
like,
I think I'll be okay.
"Just gotta hold on."
I just gotta hold on. I'm like, Dan, you got a leaky box?
He sure did. I was like, he
Oh,
gonna let it go. He's
That
like,
was awesome.
it
That was
was.
like the best way that they got rid of Rose. It was so
Yeah.
awesome. And I'm like,
That
why?
red mist, and why did
Oh,
y'all take that? Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That was the one part that I wanted to mention that really disappointed me, is that Momo was not even a blip in the damn
No.
movie. A
And
blip.
she was the one that took Rose down, basically, with the help of Dan.
Yep. And I mean, they had the deathbed confession of, we have this connection, and, her daughter slept with Jack,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the connection. And yeah, the movie
And we
sucked.
realized
I'm
that,
sorry.
hey, I have a half sister and I really do have this niece and we do have the same gifts and we do have this family trait of not only the shining but of
Anger.
being really angry. All
Here's
those
Johnny.
things, right? All those things are so important and the
Yeah.
movie just missed them all.
Yeah, they missed the
Missed them
mark.
all.
They missed the mark on that one. Yeah.
So, I mean, and people liked it. I mean, Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 77%. IMDb had a 7.5 out of 10. So, in general, people liked it. But I have a feeling that a lot of those people didn't read the book.
No. And I think they liked it because in the movie, they did a lot of referencing to The Shining. Like the one scene where he goes back to the Overlook Hotel and he looks through the door, that's
Mm-hmm.
reminiscent of his dad looking through the door,
Yeah.
him talking to his dad in the bar. And this is the thing, it's like the Overlook Hotel burned to the
The
ground
ground.
because of
Yes.
the defective boiler. And I think that's probably, people had the nostalgia of The Shining because this director decided to throw in all this in the third act, basically. Because,
Yeah, because they
the
really
first,
changed that end. It was
the third act of the movie, they basically did The
paid
Shining.
homage to The Shining. Yeah,
Yep.
that's what they did.
Yep.
And that is not what was in the book.
Not at all, people.
The book ending was much better.
Yeah.
But if you were a fan of the Shining movie, then you were probably happy to see those callbacks.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But it did nothing for the book. The book, it was just like, only thing I really, really enjoyed was the mist, the steam, and Abra. Because she was a black girl. Black girl magic.
Black girl magic. Yes. Yes, girl,
Wait,
do it.
So while I'm watching the movie, this is my little side note. So I'm watching this movie and I'm looking at this little girl and I'm like, God, does she look like somebody? And then her dad shows up and I'm like, oh my God. Well, the dad looks like my son.
Oh, really?
And then the little girl looks like my nephew. That looks like could be my nephew's child. So I'm looking at this girl and this husband, and I'm like, this is like my family right here. So I sent them a picture of. I'm like, this is, I won't say his name. I'm like, this little girl looks like she could be, whose child, and this is you. And he's like, Ma, now I can't get that image out of my head. I said, how do you think I felt watching this whole movie, looking at my son and my great niece? Because that's what it felt. This is what it felt like.
That's so crazy.
It was so crazy because I'm looking at this guy and like, he looks like he could be my child.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But other than that,
wow, that's
but
cool.
I'm glad we did it because I always love a good book and a movie adaptation. I love doing the comparisons.
Me too. It's fun.
Yeah.
And it's nice to not have to think up your own characters because they did it, the actors, because they did it for us.
Yeah.
And
I think they did pretty good. Besides, I don't know if I really enjoyed Dan. I don't know if I would have picked him. I did enjoy. I did like the cast. Yeah, I did like Rose. I thought she was a good pick for Rose.
Rebecca Ferguson, she looked the part.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah,
and of course we said we liked Abra. I mean, I liked who they picked for Snakebite Andy too. I had no problems with her.
Yeah, I did. I did like her. I really did. Pro Daddy. I totally saw him
Yeah.
as Pro Daddy. And Grandpa
Zahn
Flick, oh my god.
McLaren.
Yeah. And Grandpa Flick, perfect.
That guy, I feel like he's been in other things as scary people.
Yeah, like Frankenstein kind of, because he's really tall and lanky kind of. But yeah, Grandpa Flick, I was like, perfect. Grandpa Flick was perfect.
Yeah.
Who else? Billy, no, Billy should have been older. I didn't see that guy as Billy.
No, when I think of Billy, I think of like that guy. He's from Fear the Walking Dead season 1 and 2.
Yep.
I'm like, no, Billy was supposed to be like 65 or 70 years old.
Yep.
He's old.
Yep. With what did he have? Like a stomach tumor? Yeah. He reminded me of a old white man from New Hampshire. And this guy is he's from New Zealand, that guy.
Yeah.
And yeah. And if this is my other thing, if you're going to combine Billy and Casey, because they both were old white men, how'd you come up with this dude?
Yeah. I think just because his face was recognizable at the time.
Yeah, that's true too. And trying to sell tickets. So, but yeah, no. And he just didn't. And the other thing is the braids. The braids in New Hampshire, come on. Who did that? Casting. Who did that?
Yeah.
I'm like, here you have this man. No, not New Hampshire. In Teeny Town? Come on.
No.
Just because you got Abra does not mean you get to have braids.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, gosh.
Well, okay. Well, do we want to talk about the narrator separately at all? I feel like we kind of covered him a little bit.
Yeah. No. I think we did kind of cover Will. I think he did a good job.
Yeah, he was fine. I didn't have any problem with him. I think any drawbacks that may have been there was strictly due to the type of book that it was. Not that it was his performance at all.
No. I think it was the type of book in Stephen King's writing style. And you basically had to figure it out.
Okay.
Or ad-lib it. I don't know if he's done other Stephen King books, but yeah, I enjoyed his narration.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. Well, I think we should rate the book and then rate the movie 1 to 5. I think it'd be fun.
Cool.
So let's rate the book first. You go ahead. I have a feeling we'll have a similar rating. I have a really strong feeling.
Yeah. Since I can't go, I'm going to say a 4. I was like at a 3.5, but I'll say a 4.
Yeah, I was at a strong 4 though. I wasn't at a midway point. I was at a strong 4. I really liked it, although like we said time and time again throughout this past hour, there are issues, right? It's not perfect, but I enjoyed what he was trying to do. And I had a great time with Abra and Dan.
Yeah.
Like loved it. So for the movie, I would rate that a 3, a solid 3, I think. Maybe it would be higher if I didn't read the book first. Actually, it's more like a 2.5, but since we're not doing halves, I'll round up.
Yeah.
The movie just did not hit the mark for me, but it was okay. It was okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think?
I'll give it a 2. And the reason why I'm giving it a 2, because there were points in the movie where I wasn't watching. I was like doing something else. I was watching it, but I felt like even watching it, I didn't miss a whole lot. You know, like how while reading the book, I had to rewind because I thought I missed something. While watching the movie, I was doing like, I don't think I missed anything important. So I feel like if I can watch a movie that I've never watched before and do something else, it's not that good to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I hear what you're saying, and I agree. I think I think a 2 is better than a 3 because I was at the 2.5 and I rounded up, but I probably should have rounded down because I was sitting there like, and like you, I was also distracted a few times. I found myself, I got up and got some water. I didn't even press pause. I just got up and I just came back.
And you figured it out.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not rewinding this. I'm not pressing pause. Whatever. Let's just plow through this movie already.
Yep. That's exactly how I was doing. And
Yeah.
I mean, because we read the book, and even when they changed it, it was just like, you guys changed. Okay.
They changed so much. I had this expectation that you want to see, like we mentioned, there were certain things we wanted to see as the readers of the book. And those things make it exciting for us.
Yeah.
And when we don't have them, it's like, ooh, like, like that's what you decided to do?
Yeah. A few little twangs is okay. But I mean, that third act was like, who wrote this?
They went off the rails. They rewrote it.
Because I'm like, if Stephen King, I would love to know how he felt about this, because he did not like The Shining by Stanley Kubrick. He did not. He even mentioned it in the epilogue. That he was like, and they thought this was scary. I don't know what they were thinking about. I would love to know what he felt about this, because they butchered his book.
Oh, they did.
They butchered it.
And I feel bad for, like, because so many people liked it, but man, I'm with you. 2.
Yeah.
2 out of 3. Sorry.
Yeah.
The book was better.
Way better.
Yeah.
It was worth the pages, the 18 hours or and I think, like I said, me and my rating, it was because it just took so long for me to get there. And I think to my expectation of it was supposed to be horror. And I'm like, when am I going to be like, ooh, under the covers?
Some of the things we talked about are horror. They are horror. Like, torturing a child.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, those things are horror, but it didn't feel scary, if that even makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that's what I was waiting for, that I should be scared, but I was horrified.
Yes. Yeah.
That I was extremely horrified with those, the killing, the torturing, the killing of the child, and
the stalking of Abra, the kidnapping of her, and the treatment of her by Crow Daddy. Man, he was so rude to her in that book. Oh my God, he was so mean.
Change your tampon, sure, little girl.
I'm sitting there like, damn, like,
he gave no fucks. He gave none.
He gave 0 fucks, none.
None.
Oh my God.
I'm going to shoot your little friend right here, and you're going to watch him.
Yeah.
Or I'll just shoot the gas station attendant. And you could just, I was like, ooh. He didn't care how old she was.
If you mind your P's and Q's, I'll be nice to you. You want me to be nice to you, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, bitch, I'll punch you in your face. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's nuts. That's what she wanted to say to him. Like, but he had Billy. She's like, okay, I'll do what you say.
And Billy, man, and they was high as hell. Whatever was in those vials, Billy was gone.
He was out, and he woke up like, what happened? Where are we?
Yeah. Like, oh, man.
That was hilarious. Yeah. I'm sorry. It was great. It was great. Like, that is why I got a 4. Like, they had some really good parts in that book.
Right. And that Crow Daddy that they had was perfect for that.
Yeah.
I could see him talking shit to Abra and Billy in that car. Mm-hmm. Instead of just killing her dad and carrying her out the damn house. Because he was slick.
Know.
He was slick.
Yeah. That interaction was awesome. I mean,
yeah, it was.
Like, dang.
Oh, gosh.
All right. So I guess we are done with Dr. Sleep. We are putting Dr. Sleep to sleep.
Yes, I could mark that off my list of things I wanted to do. I've read a Stephen King book, and I don't think I'll probably be reading anything else unless it's just something.
I don't think he has anything.
Gone. Yeah. The thrill is gone.
So if you guys read Dr. Sleep a long time ago when it came out, a couple years ago, or if you saw the movie or whatever, just, hit us up. You can find us at Shelf Addiction Official or on social media. I'd love to know what you thought of it. If you agreed with us or disagreed, tell me why. If you thought the movie was the best thing you ever saw and you think we are insane, let us know that as well.
Yeah, let us know.
Although you won't be able to change my mind. I'm just saying.
No. If you can see my face, no.
She's got the no. No.
It's not working.
All right, guys. So that is it for today. Thanks again for listening, and we will catch you guys next month on the next Buddy Read. Take care, guys. If you enjoyed today's episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review, or like this episode on your favorite podcast player. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. You can share this podcast with other book nerd friends or on your favorite social media space. You can also join the Shelf Addiction Patreon family. For as little as $2 a month, you will help us produce even more awesome content for your ears. You can also consider joining the Shelf Addiction official Facebook group, where we talk all things bookish and more in a safe space. The Shelf Addiction podcast is a part of the Nerdy Maven Network. You can also reach us via email at info@shelfaddiction.com. Thank you for listening.